then we would issue a notice to proceed. That is when the clock starts ticking on the contract. So the sooner we can get to that point, the sooner the clock starts ticking, the sooner we can get done, especially with contract one, because that's the ARPA-funded project, that's your state appropriation project. So we want to start that clock as soon as we can, both of them actually, but really contract one. So that's all I was going to add, is that the clock starts ticking when we have the pre-con and issue the notice to proceed. And next question might be, how long does it take to get from notice of award, how long does it take them to get their bonds and insurances pulled and submitted and reviewed and maybe resubmitted and that kind of thing? Typically a month, month and a half. Depends on how ready they are to go. Like a bigger company, a lot of times they'll have them to us in a week, right? Sometimes a bigger project like this, a contractor that's, not as big, it might take them a month to pull them all together. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It just takes them a little more time.
So given that, I just want to reiterate, or you can confirm, that with contract one, which is dependent on the $3 million, $1 million of that is the federal funds. That is not on a time ending for the end of 2026.
Right.
I think that's actually like 2030. But the $2 million that is the county ARPA funding, that is on a deadline for December 2026. We are still on task for completing that much work.
Right.
And getting payments in and repayment
Yep.
submitted.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right, well, good. Are there any questions for Wade Trim or Gosling Zubek?
We don't have engineers on our board, so I just want to ask this real quick. So with it doing the open, that's a PVC with, is there any concern with the product differences? By not using the HD PV, it's fine? All good?
Yeah.
Perfect. I had to do my Google and I was like, okay, what?
Yep, the material they'll be using for the open cut portion is the same material as you see for water main.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, what is the warranty obligation and expectation once all this work's in place?
I'd have to look back. That's standard language in our contract documents. 1 year.
Workmanship and, what do we, with this type of installation, what do we typically do for, you can't see anything, so is there an inspection process at the end of that 1 year to validate that there are no warranty issues?
Yeah, the DPW has a pretty good pulse on that, being that they're operating it for that year time period. So they're, in a lot of ways, our eyes and ears out there after construction's completed. During construction, there will presumably be a wade trim inspector out there with eyes on it at all times. So there's good documentation during construction, and then after, it's just keeping a good pulse on how everything's operating and being proactive about addressing any anomalies that we could find.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there also any kind of warranty bond requirement or holdback, retention holdback?
Yeah, they'll have a maintenance bond.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's a good point to bring up. We also do have in the packet tonight for consideration by East Bay's Board is the proposal for professional services. Right now, the contracts that we have with Wade Trim end pretty much at this point. And so this proposal would then pick up and then take us all the way through turnover with the construction process. So, and part of that is an inspector, and so they had to make sure that they have an inspector for all of the time, or the time that would be required on both of these contracts.
Yep. So there will be a single inspector dedicated to the project from start to finish. And then during the peak summer seasons, we're planning on having a second inspector on site just to augment that, because the inspection effort required for open cut install is a lot more hands-on and a lot more of being there at every minute that pipe's going in the ground, because as they're installing pipe, they're burying it at the same time. Whereas directional drill, there's not as much to watch and inspect from the ground level, so you can do a bit more periodic bouncing and forth between the two contracts. So there's some economy in the directional drill in terms of inspection. And then when they're putting in valves, cleanouts, bends, other types of fittings, thrust restraints. There would be an inspector on site on the directional drill side of the contract for the entirety of that work before it got backfilled.
So,
Oh, whoops, what do we got?
talked about how it had a year's, however you want to call it, warranty on the work. And DPW is going to monitor that. How do we get that report? Do we need to make a formal request to DPW, or is that something that part of this project you're going to?
So typically, the DPW in operating that main over the year will let us know if there's any issues immediately. That be correct, Brian?
Correct, yep. Yep, usually if anything pops up, they don't want to deal with it because they know it's still in the warranty period, so they let us know. And if anything does happen, it's usually in the first 3 months, if anything's going to happen.
Well, with the freezing and thawing and whatnot, I mean, I know they're below the freeze line, but still.
Yeah.
Mindy?
What was the net increase in construction and observation materials testing costs when we went from the directional drill to the open cut?
That I don't know specifically. What I can say is we probably still would have planned to have an inspector there 24/7 basically when the contractor was working, just due to the fact that there's 2 separate contracts going on at the same time. The time to mobilize an inspector from our office to get out to inspect something as needed on contract 1, bounce back to the office, and then know 2 hours later something's happening on contract 2 that we have to look at. It's just more, by the time you do that, you may as well factor just full days into it for a single inspector, in my opinion.
Other questions? So for clarification, and you found these in your packet, but on pages 5 and 7, you do have the 2 different contracts. And again, just for repeat and clarification, particularly for the public watching on video, for contract number 1, the recommendation is to award the contract to M&M Contracting in the amount of $8,226, $226,050. 8 million, sorry, way off on that. $8,226,050. Again, you've gone through all of the process and talking with the bidders and all of those good things, and have done the same with contract number 2 on page 7, where the recommendation is to use Walton Contracting with the alternate bid provided, and that total would be $5 million, there I go again, $5,947,035.75. Can you tell I wish these were a little lower, like in the thousands? No. So those are the 2 contracts in front of us tonight. We also do have, and we knew that this would be coming because we knew we were only had proposal up until the bid review, is the proposal for services for weight trim. That is time and material not to exceed a contract for an estimated fee of $620,000. So these are, the contracts and the engineering are for East Bay Township to award. However, the agreement and resolutions that we passed at the July 29th meeting were with the criteria of that estimated cost that we have, the pre-bid estimated cost. Clearly, this is more than the pre-bid estimated cost, and that is why we will need an action item from Acme Township, and you'll see why on page 3 of your packet in the middle, it says, approval from Acme Township is required in the form of the resolution, and it goes on to quote the agreement on why that's needed. So basically, before East Bay Township can make any movement on these contracts, we would need your concurrence with that. And you do have that resolution in front of you, and that has been drafted and supplied by the attorney. My apologies that the attorney could not be here tonight. He was traveling out of state. And we do have the bond financial planner watching the meeting tonight, because we weren't really getting into the thick of that. So with that, there is the resolution for the Township of Acme. that would go through, and basically, the provisions then resolves that you would basically reaffirm the agreement, that it's necessary, acknowledges the bid proposals, and then recognizes the cost of those. This document itself, and the distribution of the costs at the 39.41 and the 60.59% that we had talked about at a prior meeting. This in itself does not increase the noticed bond amount that we looked at for financing for 6.5 million. So we'll look at that in a few minutes, but this updates that agreement in which we signed, gosh, a little over about 6 weeks ago. So that would be the first order of business we would need to conduct tonight.
Just one more question.
Sure.
If that's okay. Just to make sure so that we're not, going into this a little bit blind, but as I understand it, this bid and the way that y'all submitted the RFP for this would have been basically, it's a turnkey project, right? I mean, they've got everything from traffic control, everything it's going to
Yeah.
take to get through this project.
Yep, the only item that was caveated by all bidders, just due to the nature of the area we're working in, was none of the bidders included handling of hazardous materials in their bid. All of them, however, included at least an allowance worth of contaminated materials in their bid. So contaminated materials, if they encounter those, a lot of times you can put it back where it came from safely without getting, without needing to take it anywhere. There's also local landfills that you can take it to when you don't have anywhere to put it. With hazardous materials, that's a much bigger ball of wax. And that material, if encountered, would need to be taken to a landfill that's down somewhere near Grand Rapids. That's the only item that all three bidders noted on both contracts, 2 on contract 1, that was not included in their bid.
What would there be a risk of?
There,
The hazardous material? I guess anything's possible.
there's known contaminants in the area and surrounding area of installation. So they mainly put that in there to cover themselves
Sure.
in case.
Okay.
I think you're asking what would be
Yeah,
the
what, I mean, we're
financial
gonna run
risk.
into a fuel tank underground or,
You can run into a whole lot of different things underground that would surprise you. There's knowns, which are the identified sites that we've put on our plans.
okay,
And then there's unknowns. The unknowns are the main reason they put that caveat in there.
okay.
And one of the things all of the engineers recommended, we opened the bids on Monday, and then the 4 engineers here, and Doug and I met on Friday to go over this and a lot of the different nuances of this. But one thing that you all recommended was a 5% contingency over and above the bid price. So
That's all that.
taking care of some of those items too, if they appear, and hopefully they don't.
Yeah.
One last just clarification. I was, obviously, there's significant savings with the contract too, going from the directional bore to the open cut. But how, just looking at the numbers, how did even the preferred bidder, or the low bidder in this case, how did they go from a restoration cost of $412,000, actually went down? I would think that would be considerably higher for restoration cost, given the nature of difference between directional boring and open cut.
That was a question I asked them as well, and they said they were confident with the number they provided. They did not give a lot of explanation behind it, but they were comfortable with it.
Okay.
They could have put that cost in a different pay
Sure,
item.
yeah.
Yeah.
You never know where they vary
Right.
sometimes.
Yeah, and the sub could have put, the sub being the directional driller for the base bid, could have put their own small amount of restoration in there, say $8 a foot, and then the general marks it up by $2 a foot. I didn't get that deep into the weeds with him on it.
Yeah, I was just curious.
But I did point it out to him. I was equally curious about that.
And remind me, oh, go ahead, Mark.
I'm sure it was just a paragraph.
Oh. Let me just real quick, no, actually, go ahead, Paul, go ahead.
So you mentioned that certain things are delineated on the maps for the known contaminants. Are any of those known marked areas suspected of being hazardous as well, or are they just known to be contaminants?
Right now, they're just known to be contaminants.
Garth, could you or any of the other three engineers speak to, as much as you're comfortable, your work experience with Walton, if you've done any work with them recently, and also M&M?
Yeah, I've personally been working with Walton on a project over in Elmwood for the past year and a half, the Elmwood Township Marina. They've done all the site work on that job. We're currently wrapping that job up. They're in punch list right now. It's gone smoothly. Park/site style projects like that are very different in nature than a pipe job. Both them, they would much consider a pipe job because it's much less community input per se, because it's not infrastructure that they're thinking about interacting with every day. They have done other pipe work, though, locally. They had sorted several recent projects that they've worked on. So we're confident in their ability to get the work done.
And M&M is a firm out of, was it Grayling?
Yep, M&M's out of Gaylord. They're down near the south side of Otsego Lake. The most notable recent local project they did was the 2 roundabouts south of Chum's Corners a couple of years back. That project specifically, we called MDOT and asked for their input on how that project went with them, and they did not have any negative feedback. They said the project went smoothly overall.
And I understand Romer,
Yep.
sorry. Romer is a company that does these types, while coincidentally, they're from the area.
Yeah.
They do these types of projects nationally.
Yep, they're one of the only contractors locally capable of doing directional drilled pipe of this size. There's a couple others, one of which bid with Elmer's on this job. But yeah, contractors capable of doing this size pipe are few and far between, so we're fortunate to have one in our backyard.
Other questions, or getting back to the resolution for Acme Township? Sure.
On the worst case scenario that the existing main fails or breaks during construction for some reason, you said that they're going to have an emergency response plan submitted and approved prior to initiating work.
Yep.
Whose responsibility would it be, and would there be a condition where it would come back on the townships as an additional remediation cost?
Got a good answer for that?
So the responsibility for calling and starting that action of emergency response will be the contractors. That's all written in the contract that they have to do that. Can anybody, and they have to have insurance on the project, right? So if there's anything that causes damage to neighboring properties due to the contractor's operations, it would all fall underneath their insurance. Now, the biggest concern that I have with what's going on, we're working close to that existing force main. We're digging far enough away from it that we shouldn't hit it with a machine, but my concern is all of the construction vibration that happens above it and that close to it could cause something to happen. If that's the case, I don't know if we can show a negligence on the contractor's side. I mean, that would be a question that we'd have to jump if we got there. I don't know if I can fully answer your question. I would, without saying too much, yeah, we would have to jump that hurdle when we got there. But certainly if they're digging and they hit it, that's a different story. But if it's in such bad shape that the vibration is caused it to break, that's a different story.
Is
But
there
they would
any-
still have to take care of it.
You know, kind of getting ahead of the emergency response plan, is there other maybe mitigation measures that can be put in place with shoring or otherwise, where they're close to that pipe that would?
Absolutely, yeah. So if there were any locations, things in the ground that are on paper aren't always right where they're shown, right? So they may find that we're closer overall in certain spots than what it was purported to be. So we're digging closer than we thought. They can shore that up with either sheet piling or steel sheeting or whatever to try and keep that protected so that you don't hit it.
But the sheet piling installation is the vibration that might cause a failure in the first place.
Yeah, right. Something like that could even cause it to be worse.
One other thing that they have to do, Matt, is if we are close to, if they think they're going to be close to that main, generally speaking, they're supposed to hand dig it to expose it. So if they hand dig it and they still hit it, but they might hand dig it and they might look at it and go, wow, there's some integrity issues there. We may want to talk to the engineers about sliding things over a little bit or doing some shoring or some kind of stability, take some stability measures to do that. But once you start digging, things can happen.
Yeah.
So
And historically, we've experienced this in East Bay Township when MDOT redid US 31 North, which was, gosh, quite some time ago. It must have been 2010 or ish.
Yeah.
And when they did the work up there, I think we had 3 breaks at that time up on 31. And with no determined reason for the breaks, but suspected from the reverberation from the construction. But, in the end, they just have to be fixed. I mean, you don't have a choice. You've got to fix it.
Well, that's also a question. Obviously, the fault or the cause, or however you want to determine it, is going to be determined later. The fixing it.
Yeah, that's right
Oh,
now.
crap, literally.
Yeah.
Right now, and they're planning for that.
Yep.
So, I mean, if it's within reason of where they're working, and something breaks, they're gonna fix it, and then we'll figure it out after.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Question, I guess, for the last gentleman, is hand dig if you get within 3 feet, or is it wider than that? Used to be, I think, 3 feet, but I don't know anymore.
I don't think there's I think if they know there's a crossing, there's some kind of perpendicular crossing, then they have to hand dig it. I don't think it's 3 feet. I think it's just, they have to expose anything that they're gonna go under, period. Doesn't matter if it's, I don't believe there's a distance.
That's the mystic.
The parallel, Glenn, the parallel, I think that's a means and methods that the contractor has.
Okay.
The 3 feet comes from the mystic regulations.
Okay, so with that,
That- On that, so when you had those breaks on 31, 2010, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Who paid for it? The township, I'm
the
assuming?
township, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so, back to what somebody said, that,
MDOT was working on the surface too, so hard to get them,
Yeah. but the last time we had a break, it was because of vibrations too, correct? And then we had to foot the bill for that. So likely what I'm hearing, just so we're not blindsided, is what I'm trying to understand, is if they think it's vibrations, we're potentially going to be on the hook for it. Is that a fair statement? or
We'll
no?
definitely let legal counsel determine that.
Okay,
That's
good.
why Mark Nettleton has been phenomenal through this
That part,
entire
okay, so he's on that.
project. And, yep. And so we would, there's nothing we can do to prevent it other than not do the work. And we don't want to not do the work because we can have those breaks anyway.
Right.
From anything else. So this is, the problem is it puts us in a pinch because we're trying to correct what the problem is in the first place. There's no redundancy in this system.
No, and it's just, it's quite high, much higher than obviously what we
Sure.
initially thought. So then to be thinking out,
Yeah.
Best case scenario, we don't have a problem. Worst case scenario, we may have to be divvying up more money
Yeah.
to fix some of this. So that's the part that's just trying to not be
Yeah.
overzealous and
Yep.
being what we can handle. and what we
I think Paul has a good point, and I'm really glad that these gentlemen all put this in the contract, is that, you know, they are thinking at least how to control that and get that done so that we don't have a bigger issue environmentally or
Oh,
with
right.
service to people.
Well, with the plan in place, that's a quarter of your battle anyways, is figuring out what do we do now, while that's already supposedly in the plan.
Exactly. Yep. So the resolution here, as I said, doesn't do anything except acknowledge basically that what these bids are and that, you know, you understand what the new estimated cost is and that you are in agreement and moving forward with those costs. We couldn't just spend more money without you guys knowing about it.
Doug, Jeff had a chance to review this?
I haven't, no. Jeff
Ah.
hasn't had a chance to review it. Their lawyer has.
They're the lawyer for the project.
The lawyer for the project, which is also,
Right there.
yeah, yep, but we absolutely, you can as well approve it with, inform with review of your council, and if there are any issues, your council could do that, but this was, put together, we just got the bids a week and a half ago.
Week and a
so
half, yeah.
we're putting together and figuring things out very quickly.
It has been a quick turnaround to get this
It's had legal
Getting
review
it.
by the project's legal
legal counsel.
counsel.
Same one who put together the agreement and the resolutions from last time.
Okay. Any other questions? Mark, have you got anything else to say about the project other than what you already have?
No.
Okay. So this would be resolution number 21.
I'll make a motion to approve Acme Township Resolution
2025.
Acme Township, French Charles County. Resolution to approve as-bid costs of sewer system improvement project and matters related thereto as presented with the updated, if you will, dollar amount of $16,210,250. The contract as spelled out.
Have you got a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Scott, seconded by Gemma. Roll call vote, please.
Scott?
Yes.
Emma?
Yes.
Foxy?
Yes.
Swanson, yes. White?
Yes.
Okay, your resolution passes.
Resolution passes.
Okay. With that, the East Bay Township Board does not need to pass a resolution. We accept the cost that is increased over the pre-bid cost by nature of awarding the contracts. And I have as well cleared that and gone over that with legal counsel. So at this point, East Bay Township would consider awarding contract number 1, force main from Traverse City Regional Wastewater Treatment Plant to Garfield Road to M&M Contracting in the amount of $8,226,050. And I think we would do both contracts as separate motions. Is there a motion for that? Is there someone who would move that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, the motion is made by Walters and supported by Bartlett. Further discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote, Ann?
Walters.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yeah,
M. Cortez.
Yes.
S. Cortez.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Wright.
Yes. Okay, and the second contract would be the award for contract number 2, Force Main from Garfield Road to East Bay Lift Station number 1, with the recommendation it be awarded to Walton Contracting with the bid alternates for a total amount of $5,947,035.75. Is there a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there support?
support.
Okay, the motion is made by M. Cortez and supported by Lyle, and we'll do a roll call vote. Ann? I got all
Yes.
the amounts right, you guys.
M. Cortez.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes,
Bartlett.
Yes.
S. Cortez.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Wright.
Yes. Okay, the next thing for East Bay Township Board to consider is the proposal for professional services. This is in the amount, when you see the total cost that you've seen in your cover sheet on page 3, this engineering is covered in that full amount there. And this is, again, the professional services of construction engineering and observation, which takes us from bid award through all of the paperwork and insurance and all of those things, through project oversight, all the way through construction turnover. Closeout, thank you very much. And this contract is in the amount of 600, and it is a time and materials not to exceed contract for an estimated fee of $620,000. Is there a motion related to accepting this proposal for professional services for the East Bay Sanitary Lift Station number 1 Force Main?
I've got a question.
Yes.
Just on the scope, I know going back months ago when we were talking, there was still some questions around the connection point at the wastewater treatment plant.
Yep.
I'm assuming all that's been sorted out from a technical design perspective, that's
Yeah.
fully buttoned up. There's
Yeah,
no-
that's been ferreted out with the city
Okay.
in conjunction with their project that is ongoing.
Right.
They have designed and will be at some point installing the header piping that the new East Bay Acme main will be tying into. The responsibility of the contractor that is awarded for this work is to lay the stub of pipe in there, and the city's contractor will be making the connection to that stub.
Okay.
And even if you recall, even a little bit further east than that, we understood there was an interface with Garfield Township.
Right.
And we've also buttoned that up, so to speak, with documentation on how they want to be involved, which actually is to not be involved. But we have documentation of it, so that's been clarified.
And not to get too far into the weeds on you, but just outside the plant property, there's also a bypass connection proposed as well that will be installed.
So is there a motion for this proposal for professional services?
I'll make that motion.
There's support?
Support.
Okay, the motion is made by Walters and supported by Cortez for the proposal for professional services in the amount of $620,000. Any further discussion? We'll do a roll call vote. Ann?
Walters.
Yes.
M. Cortez.
Yes.
S. Cortez.
Yes.
Bartlett.
Yes.
Lyle.
yes.
Cook.
Yes.
And Wright.
Yes. Okay, that is technically all we have to get done tonight as far as things pass. But do want to get a little bit more into the weeds on the financing portion. We do have some time on this. Again, speaking with Andy Campbell with Benzinski and Company, and the time frame it takes from the time you decide exactly the amount that you're going to bond until when you receive those funds. Knowing that window, we still have some time, but we need to work towards making sure we're on the right path. So if you recall, the 45-day referendum that we posted, we would be looking at bonding $6.5 million. Now, that 45-day referendum is done October 3rd. It is timed out. So any point after that, we can bond for that amount. If the boards were wanting to bond additional funds, then we would have to repost that. So I am gonna have you pull, you have a sheet on your desk that looks like this. It is behind the financial sheet. It was paperclip to it. Looks like this. It's a sideways one.
What page is it?
Actually, it wasn't in the packet.
No, it's
this
here,
packet.
it's in the back of this one.
Back page of that packet. Does everyone have that? Okay, so I want to just walk you through this. We've just awarded contract 1 and contract 2, which gives us about $14 million, $14.2 million. We've added that 5% contingency. We've added $150,000 for the issuance cost for bonds. And I did just bump that up. I think we were on 140 something on the last one, so just kind of tweak that. 20,000 are the legal expenses that we've had to date on going through with this project. And then there will be more legal expenses, but there's also legal expenses included in that issuance cost. Okay? The engineering of the almost $1.2 million is about $518,000 that we've expended designing this project and getting it to this point, plus the $620 we just awarded, plus some marginal funds of East Bay Township, or I'm sorry, of Acme Township's engineer in their efforts as well with Ray Trim. It gives us the total cost that we've been talking about of $16,210,247.04. You all realize that we have $3 million in grants, leaving us $13,210,247.04. We all are aware through the last meeting that we had that the project is split by 60.59% and 39.41%, with East Bay Township's portion the former and Acme Township's portion the latter. If you look at the column over from those percentages, you'll see that $6.5 million down there. That's the bond amount noticed. Acme Township has indicated to me, from the last of my recollection, that they would like to stick to the $1 million in cash and then bond the rest of it. If they do that, they will need $4.2 million, the $4,206,158.36 from the bond. The remaining part of the bond would be $2,093,841.64. That would, if we were to stay at that bond at 6.5%. Now, I will tell you, regardless of what we choose to do, bond counsel will let you know that if you choose to amend the bond amount and renotice, all it is, he said, don't let that deter you as a big, thing, like a big hill you have to climb. It's literally just posting it in the newspaper again and waiting the 45 days. We factored that 45 days in to the amount of time that we would have from the realization of what the ask will be until the money hits the township. Also, he will let you know that the bond rates right now are looking very good, and he said we're quite lucky in the timing that we're hitting. And also, he said he said he can't guarantee anything, but it's even looking better going forward. They're expecting it to go down even in December. And he said barring, something horrible happening where people are trying to pull all in cash, he feels like this will be a good time to do those bonds. They're looking at, right now, he told me it was under 4%. They've been seeing them at 3.75, I think he told me. So, one question I have is for Acme, and if that is still their desired bond amount. And then further for East Bay, then we would need to decide, okay, because I realize that Doug and I have talked, and we know that each township's looked at the cash funds that we have on hand, the fund balance that we have on hand, and we've got a little bit more room to play with. So we can do a couple things. One is we can put more cash to it. That is one thing we could do. We can also loan from our water fund. But I will say the bond council has recommended that we stay away from that. He said that it gets to be very tricky, a little bit more complicated. And he said, you know, I hate to say it because it sounds like I'm trying to sell bonds. And he said, that's not the case. He said, I just know how convoluted that becomes. It is much cleaner and easier. So East Bay would then need to take a look at, you really want to look at your operating cash, not your fund balance, because you know, some of these items are in the ground, so you want to look at your cash on hand. We have about 9 million, just over 9 million in our sewer fund. If we were to not increase the bond amount, then we would need to spend $5.7 million of that, leaving us with about 2.5, just under $3 million. Now, that's not to say we won't be bringing in any additional funds, because we do have growth in the area. We have about probably 900,000 if Crimson does go in. Now, remember, there's a lot of developments that are planned and then we don't see them materialize. However, they have been pretty steadfast in their continued efforts to get their development going. As well, even though bond council doesn't recommend it, I do say, you know, take a look. We have 10.4 in cash in the water receiving fund. Now, there are things that we have planned for that as well. The DPW. I've reached out to Dawn Lund, who did our last rate analysis, to have her take a look at it and say, okay, if we were to not bond any further and use cash, then where would that leave us? But some of the things that I want you guys to think about are potential uses for those funds that then we would probably have to bond for. So, for example, with the sewer, once this project is done, we are looking at video lining the other line, because we know, we'll know more after the project's done clearly, but we strongly suspect that we'll end up doing a cured and pipe placed there. If you remember the one that we did on US 31 during the beginning of COVID, that was actually pre-COVID prices, done during the beginning of COVID, was 1.2 million. So with this one, we were suspecting, it's a wild guess, but 5 million-ish. Now granted, that is shared, right? So that's a cost that you guys need to be aware of too. But what happens is just when we have this project done and when we have that cured and pipe done, we've got a heck of a sewer line going in for generations to come. So that is nothing to sneeze at, but that there is a cost to that. The other things that we have is we did a cured in place pipe on US 31 North. We did not do the full area. We only did the pressurized force main. There is still quite a bit of sewer up there that could benefit from investigation and cured in place pipe treatment there as well. Again, that's on 31, so we'll have to take a look at the partnership portion of that. The other thing is there, and I was looking back through some documents, asked Claire too. These are all, the things that so far that I'm talking about are all reactive things, right? Helping to keep a line working that's older, making sure we don't have any problems, that sort of thing. There is also another way to look at some of these funds too, and they have been mentioned, like in the master plan. I'm not going to be able to put my fingers on that sheet right now. Oh, actually I am. The master plan community vision, where there was supported expansion of water and sewer within the growth boundary. And there was another, I guess it was in 2 places in the master plan, as well as we have the water and sewer master plan here that talks about sizes of pipes, right? And the sizes that need to be potentially retrofitted given full or close to full build out. But what I was getting to with the master plan is instead of just looking at the repair of things, there's also a way to look at these infrastructures with what is the economic development and where we're putting infrastructure where we're lacking it. Two places that I can think of, excuse me. The two places that I can think of right off the top of my head, and Claire concurred with the same from what she has heard from homeowners, landowners, and so forth, are sewer going out, so Hammond Road, where the water is now, because there's water but no sewer. And then along 4 Mile Road, where we have sewer but no water, so water obviously there too. A little bit along the same lines as what we did on the roundabout, making sure we had sewer and water going each way. So with that, we don't have to decide this tonight, as I mentioned. Dawn is going to take a look at it, kind of let us know where we need to have that cash be at, especially in conversations with Brian Souza and in conversations with Noah Carberg. And then from there, we can back into, okay, are we comfortable with if we cashed it all out, obviously we would be at an $8 million cash contribution. Or are we more comfortable with sticking with the $6.5 million bond that we have noticed, and that would create a $5.7 million cash need on our part? And then conversely, there's the third option, which is, do we need to save more in our funds? And I hate to say this, sorry guys, take advantage of the fact that we're splitting cost issuance with another township. So that when, say for example, if we went to go put sewer where water is on Hammond Road, we wouldn't have to bond for that solely on our own and take bond costs all on our own. We're splitting it now with Acme Township. So those are some things that we need to think about, and we want to do that with input from Dawn. I'm looking at and talked with Andy Campbell today about us doing that at our November board meeting and seeing where we're at there. Then we can list if we needed to increase. From that November board meeting, we'll go with the 45 days, takes us to the end of the year, and then we let those bonds, and we would have the money about 3 months from then. That puts us to March, the end of March, which we are absolutely fine with from a cash flow perspective, because we clearly have the cash that we can fund the beginning of the project up front. Actually, at that point, I would be surprised if we had too awful many billings in at that point anyway. So, that was a lot of information. So, one is from you guys. Are you sticking with the 1 million cash, bonding the rest? 2 is, these are a lot of things to think about. We'll discuss at the November board meeting. And then 3 is, I want you to take a look at this sheet again and look at that far right side. If we were, say we were going to bond everything except for the $2 million we each committed, right? That would be 11.2 million. That's on the far bottom right. If we were going to bond for everything and we saw what was needed for each township, that comes out to 62.48% and 37.52%. That is darn close to the 60 and the 39%. Well, that's the reason it's not exactly the same is because we have 1 million from each township, which isn't adjusted by that percentage is equal. So that's just slightly tweaking those percentages off. The reason why the associated cost of the bond written into the agreement that we all agreed to was right now, there's 2 things I'm talking about. The 60-40 breakout for the cost of the project and the 60-40 breakout for the cost of the bond, the cost of the issuance. The 60-40 breakout for the cost of the project, solid. We have those numbers. We've been through that 30 million times with attorneys, engineers, DPW, everything. We know that that's what that number should be. The 60-40 for the cost of the issuance of the bond, that is likely what it should be if we were truly bonding out everything but those $2 million, because you can see we're pretty darn close to that. 62 versus 37. But what's happening when we stick to the 6.5, keep it lower, and we've had increased costs, and you guys need to take more of that cash out of the bond, and we have a lower amount, it really shifts the percentage of the bond to that middle percentage you'll see. Then, we're 35% of the bond. You guys are 60, almost 5% of the bond. Yet, our bond costs are 60/40. So that may be something depending on, and I'd like to hear your feedback on this, depending on whether, how much we decide to bond, if we bond, what level we bond at, if that's something that Acme Township would be agreeable to rethinking just on the bond issuance costs, if we calibrate those according to the percentage of the bond that we take. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm not going to agree to anything
No.
right now, but I understand what you're saying. How's that?
That's fine. And I will tell you, the reason that it's written that way is because everything was done from the 2013 agreement that did the 60/40, okay? And that was kind of probably written and drafted and generated and worked because that's how they figured, you know, all the costs would be split, and when you do that and keep it consistent, it's just when we get into throwing in this cash and bonding that it throws off the proportion of that cost for that. So I did, God, this is way too much talking.
Yes.
I did talk with Mark Nettleton and Andy Campbell. What would that look like if we said, yeah, that doesn't work, like those percentages for the issuance of the cost doesn't really reflect what it should. We can do a couple things. One, we can do a one-off. We can amend the agreement, and the cost of the project will still say that percentage, but in the one-off, we'll say, hey, the cost of issuance is gonna be divided differently. That's one idea. But as Mark mentions, that will be incongruent with the 2013 agreement. That's not bad. No one takes you to jail over being incongruent. We're all agreeing to it per documents. Or the other thing is we can amend the 2013 agreement to say, we'll keep the costs as they are there, but we would say, hey, any issuance of bond is based on the proportion of the bond that is received from that township. Did I lose anyone with that, or are you good?
I got it.
Okay, so let's take this piece by piece. First question, are you guys still thinking 1 million and then you need the rest in the bond funds?
I'm going to say we haven't talked about that since our last meeting. Just come up with a hardcore number. So I'm going to ask you, when do you need that hardcore number?
Okay,
How's that? Is that fair?
that is fair,
Okay.
totally fair. Well, I will tell you that we'll be talking about it at the November, what is our November meeting, guys? Do you have the dates? It's November 8th, I think?
Second Monday.
Ours is the 7th. Is yours Wednesday?
Tuesday, or a Monday.
October, I'm sorry,
Or-
yeah.
Be the 10th.
November 10th? Okay, so we'll be talking about it November 10th. Between now and then, UFS, Don Lund, who you all know, will be taking a look at that and giving us some guidance. And clearly, she can do, under request from Doug, with you guys, you know, concurring, Doug can do the same thing and say, hey, I need you to spend a little bit of time here and tell me where you think we're safe, where we're good with our rates and all of those other things. I don't want anybody from the public to feel like this is gonna jerk around rates. I don't see that happening. Yes, this project came in more than expected. Guess what? It wasn't a big shocker to us. We didn't like it when they were opening the bids and they were a lot more, but it happens. We all know that. It's COVID and post-COVID bids. What can we say? But, yeah, so you could definitely let us know by that time. We could even go ahead and schedule a post your November board meeting, our November board meeting in November, the middle, before we get into the holidays, and have Dawn at the meeting if we like.
I know I won't be here.
Well, not all of us can go to Florida.
I wait until after lunch.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, I'm planning on being gone from the 8th the beginning of December, I'll be back.
So, but if you discussed it at your township board
Yeah.
meeting, you would
Yeah, I
you'd
mean,
have input.
we had a discussion at our fourth meeting or next month's meeting.
To be 100% clear, the cost of the issuance of this bond is $150,000. And then you said there's legal fees in there, and there's some other stuff. So I would, so when we look at just
Yeah.
the bond portion of it, because the legal stuff that maybe he's doing that we're working on, that's not related to the bond.
That's in the 20,000.
Okay, that's why I was
And
asking
the
this.
other legal stuff that Mark will work on when he's bond counsel will be in the 150,000.
So only when it's bond stuff will it be thrown in the bond stuff. He's keeping that very separate. Okay.
Yeah, we haven't had him really do anything on that yet.
Well,
Yeah.
well, that's that's what they think.
Yeah.
We don't know, right, correct. We don't know with that. Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
I went over literally today, Andy, hi Andy, because I know you're listening, went over this document with him today. And I said, okay, Andy, so he had to endure just what pretty much y'all did. And I said to him, am I off base? Am I head down the wrong? He's like, nope, that all sounds pretty clear to me. So, and then he did add the comments about how we were at a good time for a bond, so that's a good thing, but. So, yes,
Does that 150,000 change if there's additional?
it does. It does. So, but what I will say, I haven't seen it change much.
Okay.
So right before our last meeting, we had some changes in the number, and I asked him to shoot me another number, and I thought, oh, I need the number. It really wouldn't have made that much of a difference.
Okay.
So, but I will say, when I showed Andy these percentages, and he goes, well, yeah, he goes, I can understand that. And he said, the thing is, most of your costs, some of your costs are not gonna be a calculation from the amount of the bond. They're just gonna be some flat cost. But he said primarily most of them will be titrated with the amount of the bond, so. So what I was trying to get from him was, is that worth talking about, or even grappling from the 60/40 to whatever,
There's so much work that has to be done, just the bond period is what,
Yeah.
so there's a certain amount, so then it's the differences.
Yeah, but he did say predominantly, most of your cost does flow with the amount of the bond, so. So I guess, you guys need to talk about that and just be, you guys need to be more firm in what you need from a bond or in cash, and we need to do the same as well. Sounds to me like we're both, at a pretty good place. We could use, Dawn for those services, and as well, if we have follow-up questions, we can use Andy as well, to bring those to you in November, and then we come to a November joint meeting and we say, look, this is the amount, and this is what we need to pay in cash, this is what we need to bond, and then we go from there.
Can I ask you to do one thing? Just if you talk to your bond counselor or whoever's doing that, and they see that interest rate dropping more, will you just let us know? And the only reason I say that is that does make a difference on
Yeah.
those future
Yeah.
projects. I'm like,
Well, I will say, I don't think he has a crystal ball, he doesn't.
and I understand he
expect it to
doesn't, but
be.
it's like, yeah,
He
they
doesn't
know
have-
more than I know.
Yeah, he does kind of expect it to be in December.
Yeah.
Beyond that, he was like, I don't,
It could go both ways.
yeah,
So,
right. Although he's gonna call me in and say, you went too far with what I said.
No, and I get it. It's just still too, we have projects in our own township, so interest rates are good. Is it worth it to do it now? Then
That's-
keep the cash so then we can pay for those.
That's what we
Just
have to.
knowing those
do.
things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think for tonight, I think we're in a good stopping place. You guys have agreed to the increased amount. We have authorized the 2 contracts. We have authorized you guys to carry out those projects. We will follow up the beginning of November with the financial piece, and Andy Campbell and Dawn Lund, and we're at a good stopping point for this piece. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I know Matt Cortate has provided to our board, I don't know if he's provided to your board, several spreadsheets from the last several months about different scenarios. I don't know if you're prepared to talk about it or not, but I'd like to hear it.
Okay, one thing I will say is some of those numbers are off because they're predicated on a lower project amount. So they'll be a little bit different. And I think we covered some of the questions.
This one's updated.
What's that?
This one's updated with the current numbers.
Good.
Yeah, and I did give it to, I would hope they'd look through it. You know, and my thought is that not to bond, to self-fund. We have a lot of cash. We're sitting on almost $20 million in cash between the two funds. And I listened to your wish list over here, and that's wonderful. But some of that is just a wish list. And some of it is a total change in policy for what we've done before. So, but my biggest concern, and I'm going to be straightforward, is when I look at the numbers from the numbers we got last time in the last packet about the bond dollars, and it's like $770,000 a year to bond in interest. And what was stated last month was that you were bringing in, Acme was bringing in somewhere $250,000 to $300,000, right? Well, if you break the 773 down, that's $309,000 annually. And if this rate now, that was at $2.3 million to be bonded, now we're up to $4 million, too. It's going to be pretty significant. And I really think somehow we have to get more creative on how we're going to finance this than just simply go out for a bond. It's a lot of money, and you may not have been surprised. I was shocked when I seen it went from 11 million to 1.6, you know. I've seen it before. And I'm going to say this, I got a real concern if that's even going to be enough. We've seen too many projects in the past have quite a bit of overrun, and few projects come in on budget.
What projects did we undertake that came in over budget?
To start with, Arbutus 5.
That came in on budget.
Arbutus 5, the original budget for that bathroom was around $500,000.
Those are engineers' estimates with preliminary engineering. From the contract amount, we came in on budget.
It doesn't, no, we had to make a budget adjustment. So anyway, see, this is what I've got to deal with. She doesn't want to even listen.
Excuse me. I was addressing your question or your comment.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, if you just take a look at it, if you want to discuss some numbers, I've got more numbers at home, but Beth is right, they were outdated because I was basing it on what the 11 million was, as far as what loans would look like. But I think it gives you a little idea of what could happen. And I just, you know, it's just a lot of money. And somehow we have to be more creative than what we've had in the past. And bond might be the answer. I don't know. But I really think we need more discussion than just a little bit here and there.
Well, I will agree with you. It is a lot of money, and I do think we need more discussion on how much cash or how much we bond. I think that Dawn, and with the help of Andy too, will be able to help us delineate that. And we have been very creative. Doug and I have traveled to Lansing several times to get funds. I have been on the phone with Washington, and we did get funds from that. I was at several county meetings. That has brought $3 million to this project. So, you know, that is nothing to sneeze at, and I do appreciate the board's support in doing that because you have allowed both Doug and I to do that. So you're correct, we need to take a look at how much is cash and how much is bond, and we'll do that. But now, we do have the project cost, we have the contractors, and I quite appreciate a comment at last Friday's meeting. I don't know if you noticed it, but Mark, I was interested in your comment, and because I can tell you, Doug and I feel like we've been working on this project forever, and I'm sure you guys as boards feel like we've been working on this project forever. And Mark right now forgets what he said, and he's like, what is she talking about? He said,
That's what he's doing.
yeah, he goes, just as I was feeling like this is taking forever, he goes, wow, this is great. This has been like a couple years and this project's getting done. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you have no idea how many times a project is either talked about and not done, or a project is designed and then sits. This project is going through all of these processes, and we are making traction on this. So thank you, Mark, for putting that in perspective for me. I appreciate it. Do we have any other questions, or are we good to reconvene back in early to mid-November?
Can we get, and you said Dawn is gonna come and present?
I don't know that she is. I haven't talked to her about presenting. I've talked with her about these numbers and updating her financial analysis with them.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see an analysis of the cash option. It seems like what you've talked through tonight is we have really multiple options, kind of full bonding all the way to cash payment and everywhere in between, kind of hybrid options. You'd mentioned there was a loan out of the fund option, but it's way too complicated. We don't want to do that.
I don't.
You pay yourself
You know
interest
what?
or something?
Basically, yes. It's basically what we do with special assessment districts. But I do understand what Andy's saying. I mean, when I see this cash sitting here, I'm like, yes, we can just loan flat $2 million or whatever it ends up being to the other fund. But I do understand what he's talking about, because all of us, once you get into this minutia, right, and you move down, and then all of a sudden you're 2 and 3 years away, and it's like, okay, do we have the documentation, and what fund did that come from, and did it hit here, and did there? It does get a little bit more complicated. And two, we'll be going through a single audit with this. I can guarantee you in 2026, we'll be doing a single audit, because we'll have $3 million in federal money.
Mm-hmm. And you can't really do I'm not a financial analyst, but I don't think you can actually do kind of an apples-to-apples comparison, if you have a rate, for example, you said 3.75 is what's been socialized,
Lately.
compared to, the option of keeping this money, in cash and earning interest on it. It's not really the same, because you're in a bond similar to a mortgage, you're actually paying your interest front-loaded up front, right? You're buying it down.
Yeah.
So, they don't really wash each other in that way.
Well, we'll have Dawn let us know that,
Okay,
comparing the options.
okay. Will she be able to run some scenarios that show some assumed rates and see what our,
At assumed rates, Adam, or not Adam. Andy can do that.
okay. I would just like to look at what, would be the interest impact
Yeah.
over the term versus just paying.
That would be Andy Campbell, and Vincenski would help us with that. Okay. Thank you all for being here, especially on short notice. Thank you all, to get 4 engineers here at the same time, 2 times in a week, wow. Pretty darn good. I think one calendar invite went around and someone responded, it's going fast though, so you better make up your mind. So thanks everybody for being here. We'll, if you want to end your meeting, then our East Main meeting, we'll just take a 5-minute recess.
Okay. Paul?
Motion to adjourn the acting portion of this meeting.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. We can just take a minute's break. Okay, so
Sit over here by myself.
are we good back there?
Good to go.
Okay, we will come back to order for the East Bay Township meeting part. With that, we have on our agenda an engineering update on any other items other than lift station 1, and Brian's going to go over those with us.
Yeah. Good evening. So 3 things I just want to kind of update you guys on briefly. First one is a sewer, I wouldn't call it an issue, a sewer item that came up on 4 Mile Road, just south of Lothlorien, east side of the road. There was a large parcel that was split into 2. A sewer was run across the road, outside of the right-of-way, and a manhole put in. 2008, this was done. Okay,
Is
through.
that the Glendale one?
It's right across, is it Glendale that's right across? I think it is Glendale that's directly across, yeah.
Single user special assessment district that created that manhole with Glendale.
Yep. So fast forward to now, that larger lot was split into 2. One house was built on the south lot and runs into that sewer that was run across the road. That's fine. The other lot was recently bought a couple years ago by a person, and they didn't realize that that sewer was there and that manhole was there. So they brought up the question, hey, what's this here, and can we take a look at it? So long story short, we've taken a look at it a few times, and today we had the kind of the final meeting on what they're going to do, because the manhole that's on site is a lot higher than what they want for their property, so they want to kind of excavate and grade. And mind you, this is outside of the right-of-way, and we couldn't find an easement that was actually drafted and signed. We have a prescriptive easement because it's been there for almost 20 years, and it's a public sewer. We didn't have something that was signed off by everybody. So when that person bought the property, that didn't show up in his title search to say, hey, there's a sewer, it's overgrown, you didn't even know the manhole was there. They go to put the driveway in, and the manhole's 2 feet higher than it wants his driveway. So anyways, today we came to a resolution. They're going to lower that manhole. They're going to sign, we, the township, we're going to draft an easement and get it to him. He's going to review it, sign it, and get it to us so that everything will be official and documented. So really, I think that's about all to say about that one. We're in a good spot. We're going to pay for the manhole to be lowered because it is public infrastructure. We're just changing the top on it, so it's a pretty easy fix. And then the property owner was there today. He was happy with the way things were going, and we're good, so.
And I really want to compliment Brian. I got text after the meeting from other, entities, DPW and so forth, that said, wow, Brian really did a great job, bringing that to culmination and getting everybody to what was fair and happy or satisfied with the.
Yeah, it's a good meeting when everybody comes in upset and everybody walks away, happy with the end result, so it worked out good. The next item is Peninsula Business Park. If you recall, this has kind of been an item over the last 10 years, maybe more, where the east end of the business park doesn't have the water pressure or volume that they would like. So when they put in a light industrial building, that building has to have a on-site fire suppression system. Okay? So the owner has, I know when Glenn was in the supervisor position, it dealt with it, and Beth has over probably since day one that you've been in the position, and even as a board member before. The owner's really trying to find a way, with assistance from the township, to increase his water pressure. Now, what you need to know, a little background or a refresher, is that business park was put in 2 phases. First phase, which is the farthest west phase, which comes off of the east side of 3 Mile. Everything was fine, the water pressure's good. Years later, they want to expand farther to the east. So they build farther to the east. It was known that you may not have the pressure or volume that you need there. They don't. And now he's having trouble selling lots because the people that want to put the buildings in are like, holy cow, I got to spend a lot of money on a fire suppression system, a fire tank on site, sprinklers, blah, blah, blah. So we've been going back and forth over the last many years on that situation. The township has provided him with options on what he could do to try and fix that. As so much as we've even talked with Metro, and Metro says, look, have him come and meet with us. Things have changed since 20 years ago when we were not a 24/7 fire department. Maybe it's been more than 20 years ago. He said, we can help. So we helped foster that meeting with the owner of the business park and with Grand Traverse Metro. This happened a year ago, a year and a half ago. And as early as October of last year, the property owner entered into a new agreement with Metro that allowed him to, as long as he those buildings put in a 24-hour surveillance, smoke detectors, and connection with a 24-hour company that knows if a smoke detector goes off, they didn't have to have on-site fire suppression, unless the building code required that type of construction to have it anyways, right? So thought we were at a good resolution. We got a letter from the owner, the development owner, 3-4 weeks ago, wants to sit down and talk about it again. So we haven't had that meeting, but we wanted to give the township board an update. I don't know if there's anything else we can do. We've provided some options. We've helped foster a meeting that helped the situation, but still wants more. I think in the end, what he really wants is the township to say, I'll tell you what, let us run water main up 4 mile across country into your development, and it would certainly help, but it's a cost of the township and to help one development.
I think we all got letters to that effect.
You did, yeah, so you got the letter that I talked about that came through end of September,
And
maybe middle of
we
September.
have met with them
Right.
repeatedly.
Oh, I knew that,
And
but
every time they're just not satisfied with
the resolution.
the resolution.
So that's really what prompted this update, you know, you guys all got that, as did I, certified mail. But, so we'll see what we can do or provide some discussion, but I don't know that there's much more that we can do directly.
Question, and if I remember correctly, they did 2 phases of business park, and when they went from phase 1 to phase 2, and I don't know if this is recorded someplace, they dropped the size of the pipe. And the reason they did is because it's my understanding that business park was never gonna grow more in the second phase. Well, now, lo and behold, we got a 3rd phase. So you got that section of pipe in there, that's where your restriction is. And I'm not sure why they keep coming back after us, because I don't know that, we told them what size pipe they had to have.
Right, so, and that's been discussed, that is true. So what you said, there's a larger pipe at the beginning, a larger pipe at the end, and the piece in the middle that connects it all is smaller. So that necks down the pipe size and the amount of water and the pressure that you can get through there. So that was one option that we talked to them about, upsizing that pipe, replacing that. But the biggest piece to this is after the 3 phases, they've got such a long dead end of line. It's like a mile, if a garden hose, it's a mile long. At the end, you know, you don't get much that comes out that end because you just don't have the volume or pressure to push it out. That's what they've got here. So the biggest thing that they could do to fix that would be to connect that dead end either out to 3 mile or have a connection to come in from 4 mile.
I can't remember your solution. One of them, it's been a minute since I looked at that letter, the letter from years ago, might have been special assessment district, you know, but that's not an answer that they want to do.
So I don't know if they have plans to send any more letters, but at least you guys know that we've received it. We'll reach out to see if, you know, he wants to meet, he's requested another meeting, but sooner or later, we're saying the same thing at every one of the meetings. But anything else on that before I jump into the next one? Okay, 3rd one, Lavender Hills. This is a development next to the Highlands. And the question that has come up is in regards to the stormwater permit that was issued for Lavender Hills. The homeowners association, I think it's supported by the homeowners association from Lavender Hills. They have questioned how the individual lots, this has been going on for a little while, but I'm going to try and paraphrase this, how the individual lots in Lavender Hills are going to drain. Okay, and they felt that all of those lots should have been covered under a stormwater permit when the development went in. So what happens is the developer comes to the township, says, we want to build a road in here and we're going to split off a bunch of lots. Well, what are you going to do? What's the excavation going to be? Oh, we're going to build the road, we're going to put in ditches. Okay, well, we got to do runoff calcs, you got to put in a retention basin to handle the water from the road. It's got to, go through all these steps. But if the developer's not doing anything with the lots other than creating them, we don't know how big the house is going to be on there, how big the driveway, how much impervious area, how they're going to slope the lots. None of that is detailed. So you can't effectively issue a stormwater permit on something that they don't even show any, one, they don't show any work on. Two, we don't know what the work will be, if ever. It might be 10 years from now when somebody builds a house on that lot. So what we did, and another piece to note is the stormwater ordinance for the township doesn't regulate single-family residential lots, doesn't require them to get a stormwater permit unless they're going to grade a half-acre area or larger. Okay, so most lots affect an area smaller than that. And the township really didn't want to regulate residential construction on a small nature like that. So what we did on the master deed for Lavender Hills, we said, look, we want written into your deed that each lot is required, each individual residential lot is required to handle any increase in stormwater runoff due to your construction. So now you've got a rooftop that's impervious, you've got a driveway that's impervious, you've got a patio that's impervious. We want you to handle that extra water on site, take care of it on site. Okay, we didn't have to do that. The ordinance didn't say we had to do that, but we did because we felt it was, a good thing to do. Well, the Highlands feels that they're going to get flooded with water. They don't understand why the township didn't require permits for each individual site. So they've had a lot of questions about it, and they started off in a very strong nature. We got a letter from an attorney. That was probably 8 months ago, I want to say, maybe. But haven't heard much since then, other than a phone call here or there. So I don't know where that's going to end or where it's going to go. It may not go anywhere, I don't know, but it may stay on the forefront. It's been a little quiet recently, but
So
just an
after
update.
the letter came from the attorney, I went through the information that the HOA provided, plus the letter from the attorney, forwarded that to you
Yep.
and to Claire, kind of highlighted the main issues and said, could you respond to this? And Wade Trim did respond to it. I think you had two, yourself and Damien responded to it, and Claire as well, and I sent that to the attorney and said, here's the information, here's the response. And I got an answer from the attorney that basically said they reviewed everything and it is a civil issue, and that they have exhausted their time on taking anything as an appeal to the ZBA. So that's where it sits now. I've informed them of that. They're not happy with that answer. I understand people aren't sometimes happy with those answers. And I think, what do you do when you're not happy and you don't have an avenue, is you come to the board and see. But I wanted to let this board know and to have Wade Trim also express what they did through the analysis, so that you guys knew that that was being looked at and addressed. So none of those really required any action. They
No.
weren't on here for any action, but they were here to just let
An
you
update.
know as a board.
Yep.
So I didn't want you thinking that they weren't being addressed. We have, I definitely have plenty of engineer and attorney bills to show that they are being addressed.
A lot going on in the background, for sure. So that's all I had on updates. Any questions anybody has? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
And
the-
Joe had to leave. He had to go to the road commission meeting. He wanted me to let you know he had to sneak out early, so.
From one meeting to the other. That sounds like a fun night.
I was gonna say, and he'll be there till 10 o'clock or 11.
Okay, great, thank you so much. We move on to the next item, which is the position and personnel recommendation. You have a cover sheet that talks about the discussion on the August 11th board meeting that listed then the facilities and recreation coordinator, which is a full-time position, and buildings and grounds, which is a part-time position. You have some of the minutes excerpt there. Where these jobs were posted, we did have very good response for these. Claire sat in on some of the interviews, sat in on the 3 in-person interviews that we had, and as well Sam reviewed the resumes, submitted information as well. Also, and with respect to the buildings and grounds, which is part-time, Randy Rittenhouse, you'll recognize his name. He was a Metro firefighter and is an EMT. He is on our roster and has helped with Dan. Dan has kept, I think 2 or maybe 3 names of people that when he needed help in the field that he could call that would work a couple hours here and there. Randy was one of them. As Dan has finished his hours largely with the Township, I think he just has a couple shifts at the ambulance to finish up in October. But as he has finished in buildings and grounds, Randy has been picking up the slack for me in the interim, and he's doing a fantastic job with it. So much appreciation to him for doing so. With these listed, you do have the attachments of the job descriptions, offers of employment, and the application and the resume for each of those that was submitted. And with that, the recommendation is to offer the Facilities and Recreation Coordinator position to Nathan Burns and the Buildings and Groundskeeper part-time position to Randy Rittenhouse, who's already on staff.
I'd like to break them apart. I have no problem with Mr. Rittenhouse. He has worked elections for me. He's seasoned. He understands the township. He's part of Station 9 through ambulance. He was part of Metro. I have no problem making a motion and giving my approval of his position. I really would rather that we have a little more time to discuss the Facilities and Recreation Director. I know you've been working on it. I know that we passed initially, but I'd really like to look at it a little bit more before I'm ready to vote on that part of it.
Well, absolutely. You can make a motion for Randy. That would be great. Would you like to?
Unless there's any other discussion that wants to be had.
Well, I'm sure we will, but we can take
All
care of
right,
that.
so I make a motion to approve the part-time position for building and groundskeeper for Randy Rittenhouse based on the letter of approval at $26.42 per hour for part-time.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay, a motion is made by Escortate and supported by Cook. Is there any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by no? Okay, so the motion passes unanimously. Okay, with that, there's looking for consideration of the offer of employment to Nathan Burns for Facilities and Recreation Coordinator. Nathan has a very good background that can bring to, the overseeing the facilities and working with Randy, as well as working with the Parks Commission, carrying out their goals and objectives, and also, I think an important piece is too, beginning to offer some programming, which can be very time intensive, some programming in the Parks Commission. I did speak with the Parks Commission about it at the last Parks meeting, just told them that these positions were out there for posting. I did receive feedback that they were supportive and excited, anticipating a facilities and recreation coordinator and a part-time buildings and groundskeeper. So with that, is there a motion or further discussion on the offer of employment to Nathan Burns for facilities and recreation coordinator?
But my only comment is my recollection is that when this was originally brought up, I kind of was under the impression the idea was an either or, not both. And I just don't see the need for a full-time salary to, as far as the few facilities we have. And you can keep yourself as busy as you want, that's not a problem, but I just don't believe that we're in a need of that. Said it before, one summer I ran Grace's summer program and nowhere near that kind of money. And it's something that could happen, but it doesn't require a full-time person. I mean, if you need something done. And I thought, too, the part of it was that this guy was also going to be the guy that did what the part-time guys are doing, whatever it is, maintaining the picnic tables or whatever, because we contract out a lot of the other services. So, we've gone from a guy years ago that did everything to now we've got, going to have a guy and a half plus contracting out a lot of stuff. So I just think it's not a wise use of the taxpayers' dollars.
Okay. A couple of the things that I would have you observe is that this person will be taking over for the job that Sam is doing with the Parks Commission and in working with some of the engineers on some of the projects that the Parks Commission is wanting to implement. Sam will be beginning to work on Corridor Improvement Authority as that, if that advances, as well as some other projects with pulling back more to planning and zoning and in support of Bill with zoning and enforcement as well. The other thing is I can understand the thinking of the limited number of parks, but we actually do have quite a number of parks, and one of the things too is the Holiday Woodlands Natural Area, and bringing that up to speed. That is taking quite a bit of time, and we're using consulting doing that. So, we'll be able to offset that. The contracts that we have in the parks, we don't have a lot subcontracted. Actually, we have like one thing subcontracted, and that is the lawn maintenance and the fall and spring cleanup. It's all done by one vendor. Well, yeah, but we can't do that because of certification. Yeah. So, so that's the contract that we have. You'll remember when we were going from Bob to Dan, we looked at contracting out 3 large areas, which was lawn maintenance, snow removal, and bathrooms. We did not do the snow. We instead bought the truck, and we did the bathrooms for a while, but we dropped them off. Dan wasn't happy with those, and we could do them pretty efficiently. We are looking at continuing with this, that we do the snow removal, and the bathrooms will continue to do those as well too. With the snow removal, one of the nice things about these two working in tandem, and although Randy would report to Nathan, when Randy does have like 2 days where he has to be at some place in particular, I think it's Long Lake or something like that. And so with those days, if those are work days, then Nathan is able to step in and do the snow plow removal. He has, in particular, Nathan worked for Camp Patsico and in Emmett County. And if you've been there, I will say it's a terrific facility. By coincidence, I happened to be there about a month ago. What a nice facility. Go there. But at any rate, when I was talking with him, he did a lot of the snow plowing there, and he also worked with contractors and dealt with contracts and payables and so forth. So a really good seasoned person who can be in the field when needed to be in the field, oversee things, has dealt with training people and so forth.
And didn't you say that you went to the park commission and talked to them
I did.
about these positions?
I did.
And what did they say?
I just told them that I
I
had.
didn't watch their meeting.
Yeah, both of these positions were posted, and they were supportive of having, they were excited about both positions.
Okay.
I like the guy's resume. I think it's good. It kind of fits the need. One concern, though, he's got an address in Petoskey.
Yes, so he is working for the, as you saw in there, the tribe. He has family with a place in Cadillac that is a little bit closer, so he plans on being there until he finds a place here. He did tell me that, and when I called to talk to him yesterday further, he said he had already been, he said, I was hoping you were going to call, and he said, I was looking around just to see if there were places, and he said he was happy to see that there were some places that he thought might work out.
All right.
Which I was kind of surprised to hear because, yeah.
A little bit
And I said,
early.
well, if you like those, just wait a little more because more are being built all over the county, so. Yes, he did have a good resume.
But the expectation would be that he would formally locate at some point
In the area.
in short order to the area.
Yep.
This would not be a work from home job then.
What's that?
This wouldn't be where he worked from home.
No.
Can't snowplow from
No.
home.
I mean,
Huh?
I
He
will.
can't snowplow from home.
His office will be the offices that we added by the copier. We'll have him in there. Plus, he'll be in the field a good bit too. So, there is a desk space too if he ever needs to over at Kelly, if he's over that way, But, yeah, it'll definitely be, I found it interesting that all of the people, particularly the ones I talked to and interviewed, all were people who were definitely looking for a job that had the type of diversity they had. They were people who were just like, I don't want to sit in front, I don't mind being in front of a desk for so much, I like doing this and that, but I like being able to also get out and work on, trail initiatives or do, different things. One of the cool things was just one other thing. I thought was interesting, they had like a historic rock wall up at Seago, and he had to figure out how to restore it so that they kept the integrity of it and so forth. And I talked with his references, and his supervisor at Emmett County said he would hire him again in a heartbeat if he had the position for him. He said he's very detail-oriented, a very conscientious worker, and a good employee. Yes.
I guess I go back to township governments is based on the statutory duties of assessing taxes and elections. We've done an amazing job of offering recreation, offering zoning, offering those different things. I truly believe we're getting way too top-heavy on positions that are not statutory. I do have a problem offering a full-time position. It sounds like he's a great guy. That's
Yeah.
not my issue.
I understand.
My issue is with benefits and that hourly wage, annual wage. We're going to cost $100,000, depending on if he's a single, whatever the age is, I don't care, a family. Statutory positions, statutory requirements of the township, there's been requests that have been squelched. I do have the benefit now in the statutory duty of elections to have 2 8-hour-a-week positions for election assistants and making that work. But it's by statute that we have to provide that for the integrity. I don't believe we need to offer this. And I wanted to have more time to be able to look at it, to understand it, before actually seeing a resume at 4 o'clock this afternoon to try to make a decision of that magnitude tonight. That's why I'm not ready to make a vote. And if it does come to a vote, I'll have to say no.
Okay, thank you.
Let me ask a question, because I guess I have a concern of what they're gonna do, this person will do all winter. Is it possible setting this thing up so it's part-time and then come summertime when all the activities are going, we look at full-time in the summer?
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to keep this person with a part-time position. Right now, the county is looking at a part-time position too. I don't know how they're gonna fill that. It's tough. It's really tough. And I do think that we have the ability to, and while I understand statutorily required and extra things, I will tell you that the one thing that I have seen positively affect residents time and time again is the money that we've invested in recreation. It has so positively impacted individuals, and the comments that we get on our investment in the parks is really heartwarming, actually. But it's, people appreciate that. They expect those parks to be in good condition. And honestly, our parks are in good condition. I would say they still need some routine maintenance that I think this team will be able to do.
The Holiday Woodlands, are we contracted with Holiday Ski Lodge to maintain that?
Mount Holiday, so we do have a small contract. We've actually never paid them, and they've never invoiced us or anything, because we really haven't done anything over there. So right now, what they do is if there's like a big log down, they will take care of anything that's on that trail. But we did get a Rotary grant, you'll recall, to do some public engagement to determine what people wanted to see in that park. And Beckett and Raiders Finishing just actually presented that report to the Parks Commission, and they passed it. So it's looking like, I don't know if I'll say it correctly, but pretty much like trails through there with parking lot, you know, that sort of thing. Relatively low impact, you know, hiking, biking type things.
Okay, but we haven't paid Mount Holiday?
No, not yet, because they
Well-
really haven't done anything.
Well, I guess what I was wondering is if this person, if we vote and this person's hired, if there's any reason they couldn't take care of that also,
Yeah.
rather than pay somebody else to do it.
So with that, I'll make a motion to approve the offer of employment for the Facilities and Recreation Coordinator for Nathan Burns. Is there support?
Support.
A motion is made by Friend and supported by Cook. Further discussion? Okay, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by no?
No.
Okay, can we do a roll call, Ann? Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Walters.
Yes.
Lyle.
Yes.
M. Cortez.
No.
Bartlett.
Yes.
And S. Cortez.
No.
Okay, thank you very much for your input and your time. We do have an opportunity for public comment. We do not have any public here. So seeing no public, our next meeting is October 13th. That is a regular meeting. We'll be here at 6:30 in the evening. Have a good evening, everybody.